For time.
We're good. It's 5 to 8.
Okay. So we'll do another 15 minutes. Lamma. Everybody says Lamma left pays. I don't think that's true anymore. I think that because the anchorage has expanded in size, this is Lamma Island, because we used to race from here to here with Stanley Headland here, not there, Stanley Headland here, because we used to race there, and now we race there, because of all the anchored ships in this bay, I don't think the left pays anymore. I think now the right can work a lot of the time. In the China Coast Cup Big Boat Regatta, I was on Mandrake, and we started left and went left most of the time. At least we protected the left. The boat that won never started to our left once in the whole damn series. Always started to our right, sailed the right. I never even saw the damn boat, and they won the series. So I think the right works a lot better, and I'm sure it's, well, personally I think it's because the course has moved from there to here. In the old days, you'd get headed, you'd get lifted. That was the winning move. Now, the header isn't so much, the lift isn't so much, and this can work damn nearly as well. There is, in Lamma, I don't know how many people race in Lamma a lot, but there is in Lamma a left-hand hole. This is the start line. Peter and I were just talking about it in the bar. There is often a hole in that area, and I think it's because the wind is blowing this way and lifts up over the mountain. These are pretty high mountains. This is Mount Stenhouse here. It's a pretty big mountain. Again, because we've moved our racecourse that way, the hole to the left-hand side, that's your racecourse there, is reasonably large. So I'm much less interested in starting at the pin end now in Lamma than I was even 4 or 5 years ago. 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I would have started at the pin 8 times out of 10. Now I'll start at the pin 2 times out of 10 and try to start further up the line because it's just generally a bit safer. That hole there is significant.
Sorry, Laurence, what's causing that hole? You said there's a mountain.
Well, there's a mountain here, right? This is Mount Stenhouse. This is Lamma Island. This is Stanley. So the breeze is northeasterly.
Yeah.
As it gets towards this mountain, it doesn't go here and straight up. It starts to rise about 3 lengths, 3 times the height of that mountain out, is when you start to see wind shadow, wind effect. So the wind is literally, if I do it the other way around, that's the mountain, that's the breeze coming in. It's just literally doing that. So you've got this bubble of no wind there. And again, it didn't used to apply because the mountains at this end of the island are a third of the height. I live on Lamma, so I know this. They're a third of the height of this one. So you didn't see such a big hole in the wind when you were sailing here because the wind got a lot further into the shore before it rose up over the mountains.
That's about half a mile out, isn't it? That hole.
Yeah, it's about half a mile out, yeah. And it's happened a lot to me where I come round the leeward mark, happened in the Etchells Champs, it was light air, came round, there's a bloody great hole here, you and I were both in it together. Even in breeze, you see it. These people here have got a bit more wind, a bit more right, and here you've got a little bit less wind, a little bit more headed. So I think you need a damn good reason now to be on the starboard bottom lay line of the Lamma course. That's the start. I think this line here, you need a lot of faith to be on that line. I personally would rather be on that line. Maybe not all the way to the boat, but maybe halfway to the boat. Okay. Now, I want to just quickly talk about this because this is a super big thing. This is picking up the lead back to the middle. Happened a few times in the Etchells Champs. Difference between the people at the front of the fleet and the people at the back. Windward mark. Starboard tack. Port tack. The good guys come across on starboard. They tack onto port. If there's somebody sorry, the good guys are here on starboard. They see a boat coming towards them on port. They don't call starboard. They get close enough to the guy on port, and then they tack. And they lead back to the middle. They'll put themselves in this position here and lead back this way, ignoring the fact that this guy is close to them. 3 or 4 times, people who were in the middle of the fleet came up to us on starboard and started shouting starboard. So, okay, fine. We duck behind them, and we head to the middle of the race course. They go on, and they tack. I'm going to make my drawing simpler. Instead of being the starboard tack boat that comes in and tacks and gets themselves into this position, they call starboard, and they end up forcing us to duck behind, and they end up being the boat out there. So many times, people who were in the first 3 ended up 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th at the windward mark because they didn't tack and lead back to the middle. I mean, I'm sure it happened to you as well, right, Peter? It's amazing how often people are willing to give up the middle to get over, to be behind. They're effectively being led back towards the mark by a boat who was behind them.
I think it depends on how close you are to that ley line. If you're on the ley line,
well,
sure,
even if you're not on the ley line, even if you're not, because what happens is these boats end up being joined by 5 or 6 other people, and all the dirty air ends up being in this zone here. The guys who are leading on back on port usually have the clearest wind. People come in, join the train. There's only one ley line, right? As soon as you're on the ley line, everybody wants that one particular line. Down here, you can be spaced out a bit more, but on this point, there's no point in going past this line. It's wasted distance. You're sailing away from the mark to come back to it. So everybody gets to this line and tacks. So you end up with a bloody train of boats coming in here, all giving each other dirty wind. And these guys a bit to leeward, always gain. You need a really good reason to let somebody back to the middle. It's the same point we were talking about before. Does that make sense?
Only as you're approaching that the ley line.
Honestly, this could be 400 metres. 400 metres out. I would not want somebody inside me to the middle of the race course. I would be happy to, on starboard, to come in on starboard and just tack and just take my chances. So I'm coming in. I see a boat coming on port. If he's just ahead or just behind, I'm going to close my eyes. And the ley line is, let's say the ley line is, I don't know, 20 or 30 or 40 metres to his left. Okay, that's the ley line there. I'm not going to go past him. I'm probably going to tack, put myself in this situation, because that's 400 metres, and that's 30. You haven't got to be Einstein to work out that the chances of a problem occurring in 30 metres are much greater than in 400 metres. 400 metres, you've got space, you've got room to manoeuvre, you can do whatever you want to do. As soon as you get joined by 4 or 5 other boats in this 30 metres, dirty air, dirty water, boats everywhere, people tacking on you, it's a bloody nightmare. 1046 did it to us twice in the Etchells Champs. They were ahead of us on starboard, shouted starboard, we ducked underneath them, they went and joined this raft up, and they went from 2nd or 3rd to 8th or 9th. All they had to do was tack this side of us and lead us the 400 metres back, and I guarantee you they'd have been the first 3 at the top mark. But they mentally couldn't give up their starboard tack rights and get onto port. I'm an irrelevance, that's what's important.
What do you mean by POR? Getting onto POR?
Oh, it should be port. There's a T missing.
Oh.
But good for reading, well done. So that was to spot the deliberate mistake. That's this point here. Get onto port and lead back.
But also that makes more sense because you want to be doing the longest tack first, don't you?
You want to be doing the longest tack, not the shortest tack.
I think it's also you tack close to that port boat, and then he's not going to live there, so he's going to have to tack out a little bit more. And then eventually, that ley line group of people are just going to
Exactly.
mess each other up.
Exactly. Exactly right. The only other thing about Lamma, I'm going to stop in a moment, is in the light breeze, and particularly in a dropping breeze, the wind often tends to go right. Later in the day, and as the breeze drops, I think the breeze almost always goes to the right. So if you're racing in Lamma in the afternoon and the wind's dropping, I would say go right. I would say follow 903 to the right, go from 7th or 8th to 2nd in the Etchells Champs. Nice move. To finish off, there's no winning set of tactics, but there is often a winning strategy. So make a strategic plan. Even if your tactics don't allow you to fulfill your strategy 100%, try to stick with the strategy. So if you decided you want to go right or left, try to stick with that strategy, even if tactically somebody's screwing around and you've got dirty air. Clean up, clean the wind up, tack away if you have to, but stick to the strategy, because most times your strategy will do well. And two other things, you've got to get a good start. You can't do strategy in the harbour if you can't start the boat. There is a seminar about starting, there's a couple on the Yacht Club website about starting. You've got to learn to start, at least in the front row, otherwise you can have whatever strategy and tactics you like, but if you're third row off the start line, you're toast, and you need to be reasonably fast. Two things, hike hard and get decent sails. Those are the two easy ways to going faster.
Can I ask you a question about Lamma again?
Sure.
I found the most difficult bit in the championships was fine getting around top mark. It's what you do next. On the run, the runs are the most challenging thing.
Yeah.
Whether you stay left or whether you stay right.
Yeah.
And it caught out a lot of people, I think.
Yeah.
It caught out me.
My general rule of Lamma is as you beat up and you come round the down towards the run, I think you need a really, really good reason to jibe. Most times, and I don't know what it is, but most times you do a lot more starboard than you do port, and most times there's a bit more wind on this side of the course than there is on this side of the course. When
It wasn't always like that.
no, it wasn't always like that.
And I wonder whether that hole you pointed out was the reason, because as you got further to the...
Yeah, this is Lamma. This is Lamma
I
Island.
think you've got that hole.
Yeah, you have got a hole here, and particularly on the last day, on the Sunday, it was miserable over here.
Yeah.
I went from 2nd to 10th, having just put my bow into this hole. I jibed out, and just that little bit there cost me 7 or 8 places. As a general rule, I think you want to stay on starboard for longer, but I think you do have to watch out for this hole, and particularly if it's light. Who was the boat that was 1344, came round the windward mark about 10th, jibed,
Second or something.
yeah, went over here and came to 2nd. I think in the light, again, this side can be good.
I think it's all about how you finish on the top, on the beat, really. Like if the looking upwind, the right is really strong, you should certainly think about jiving.
Yeah, that's true.
But otherwise,
yeah. I mean, Peter's right. If you're beating up into the wind is here, this is Stanley over here. If you're beating this way and all the wind is over this side, you do need to be thinking, okay, I'll jibe round into that wind, and that is what 134